On Christmas morning, with cinnamon rolls steaming and wrapping paper paused mid-rip, my daughter-in-law smiled sweetly before telling my son it was time to ship me to a nursing home, as if I were a broken ornament to quietly box away. I smiled too, because the countdown she thought she controlled, deposit due in 3 days, a January 3 placement date I supposedly agreed to, was actually my clock. The film I cued would start a fuse she had no way to snuff. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily. I am Elaine Mercer, 68, retired school librarian and stubborn in the way women get after burying a husband and fixing their own sump pump. I live on 14th Avenue Nay in Rochester, Minnesota, in the single-story Rambler my husband and I bought in 1994. The yard is small, the mortgage is gone, and the mailbox still sticks in February. Jacob is my only child. He is 36 and kind, the kind that says yes to too many things to keep the peace. He married Brianna 2 years ago. She runs a small online boutique from her phone and has the smile of a person who never hears the word no. They moved into my basement for 3 months tops while their townhome was under renovation. The 3 months stretched past a year. Then the tone shifted. The fridge notes changed from "we love you" to lists of pills they thought I missed, boxes I should label, and reminders about balance issues I didn't have. I noticed the first real problem on November 29th. My debit card declined for a $42 grocery run at Hy-Vee. I don't ignore numbers. At home, I logged in and saw 3 Zelle transfers I didn't make, $1,200, $600, and $950 sent to Willow & West LLC. That is Brianna's boutique. The memo line said caregiving supplies. I keep a spiral notebook for everything. I wrote the amounts in neat blue ink and underlined each once. But then, 2 days later, an email confirmed a move-in assessment for December 27 at Birch River Senior Living. I had not scheduled that. The attached PDF listed me as agreeing to a January 3 move-in. A $3,000 deposit was due by December 28 to secure the room. Someone had typed my name in the signature block. It was not my keystroke path or my email. I set a timer for 30 minutes and made calls. First, I phoned my primary care clinic. I asked the nurse to note, in my chart, that I requested a cognitive screen appointment. Second, I called my bank and set a daily transfer limit of $0 without my in-person approval. Then I drove to the branch and signed the form myself. They printed the revised settings with a date stamp. I slid that printout into my notebook plastic sleeve. Except, on December 4th, I found a notice of change in agent tucked under my sugar canister. It named Brianna as my durable power of attorney. The form's notary block had no stamp number. The signature looked like mine, but the loop on the E in Elaine was wrong. My E has always hooked left first, from a teacher who drilled cursive in 1968. Brianna's left hook was clumsy. I did not panic. I measured. I copied. I stacked. Every teacher knows control lives in the paper. I booked a consult with an elder law attorney, Megan Halverson, at a firm off Civic Center Drive. The retainer was $2,800. I signed the agreement on December 6 and slid my copy into the sleeve behind the bank printout. Megan asked precise questions and told me 2 things at once. First, a valid power of attorney has rules. A sloppy form with no notary stamp does not carry the weight Brianna thought it did. Second, the fastest operation was not court. It was leverage. So I started building a quiet lever. I bought a $79 nanny cam that looked like a ceramic angel nightlight. It recorded to a micro SD and clipped highlights when it heard raised voices. I placed it on the buffet in the dining room. I turned on my iPhone's voice memos when I heard Brianna's heels. On December 9th, the clinic called with a screening slot. December 12 at 9:40 a.m. I brought cookies for the receptionist and kept my answers crisp. I remembered the 3 words. I drew a clock with both hands where they asked. I spelled world backward and smiled. The physician assistant, a kind woman with a tan bandage on her knuckle, said my scores were normal for age. She printed a letter stating no evidence of cognitive impairment impacting capacity. I slid that into the sleeve too. But then, on December 15th, I woke to find Jacob and Brianna standing at the foot of my bed. My door was closed, they had not knocked. Brianna held my pill organizer in her palm like a prop. "You missed 3 doses," she said, "and you called the dog by the wrong name at dinner. The dog is named Beans." Sometimes I call him Bean. That hardly feels diagnostic. I sat up and swung my legs to the floor, slow and steady. "Put my pills down," I said. "Do not enter my room without knocking again." I watched Jacob's eyes and not her mouth. He looked ashamed. That gave me 6 seconds of oxygen. By then, Megan had told me how this often goes. The tactic is not law first. It is isolation. It is noise. It is telling neighbors you're declining, taking the car keys for safety, and setting deadlines you did not set. I did not argue. I gathered ink. On December 18th, I asked Jacob to drive me to the bank. In the branch office, across from a plaque with the branch manager's name, I requested video of who had presented my card in person on November 29th. The manager could not give me the video, but he could write a letter confirming that I was in the lobby that day, and no one else had requested changes to my account. He did. I slid that letter next to the clinic note. The angel on the buffet caught what I needed on December 20th. It recorded Brianna practicing a story in front of the dining room window. She tried lines like, "She gets lost going to the laundry and she left the stove on twice last week." I had not. The stove has had a blue flame since 2001, and I check it 3 times by habit, the way my husband checked locks even in daylight. The angel also caught her on the phone. "If we get her in before New Year's, the house lists next week. Jacob won't fight me if it looks like for her safety. I'll send the deposit on the 28th, just hold the room." I clipped the audio. I added a title card, December 20th, 2:16 p.m. I learned iMovie from a 5th grader once. The tools stick if you let them. Except. On December 22nd, a plain white envelope arrived. Inside was a move-in agreement with my name typed clean. Someone had checked a box that allowed agent to manage and liquidate personal property. That box would let someone sell my furniture. The agent line said Brianna Mercer. I had not signed, but in a slim, pale script someone tried to draw my name. I laughed alone for 5 seconds. Then I called Megan and drove to her office. We drafted a letter, polite and cold. It informed Birch River that I did not consent to any move, that any deposit sent would be returned to the sender, and that I retained full capacity. Megan faxed it, then mailed a hard copy. We also sent a notice to Willow and West LLC to cease any caregiving charges and to produce receipts within 10 days. We gave a number, $2,750. That was the total of all transfers out by then. Numbers have a way of pulling people into daylight. By the evening of December 23rd, I had the bones of a film. It needed a frame. It needed a reason to play it in front of them, at once, with a witness. Christmas morning offered the excuse. We always watched home videos after brunch. Jacob loves seeing himself in an overlarge snowsuit from 1993. I labeled a folder on my laptop home movies. Inside, I saved my 14-minute cut as 1998 sledding plus extras. I called my neighbor Patrice Chen and asked her to stop by for 10 minutes with a tin of cookies. Patrice is my age, a retired accountant with a silver pixie cut and a voice like a kettle. In 2017, after my knee surgery, I had signed a limited medical power naming Patrice as my backup for emergencies. I found the original in my file cabinet and slid it behind the clinic letter. Redundancy is not fear. Redundancy is seatbelts. But then, on December 24th at 9:12 p.m., the angel caught a new line. "If she balks, we tell her it's this or a court-appointed guardian," Brianna said, to no one I could see. "I can file an emergency petition on the 26th. Courts are open. Guardianship." That word lifted the hairs on my arms. Megan had explained the weight of it. In the wrong hands, it is a lock. I did something I had not planned. I walked to my neighbor's house with a flash drive in my coat pocket. Patrice drove me to the Rochester Police Department. The lobby smelled like coffee and salt from snow boots. I told the officer at the glass I had evidence of attempted financial exploitation and forgery. He took my name. I handed him the flash drive with my home movie. He wrote a case number on a card and slid it under the glass. "We'll review and call you," he said. I slept well for the first time in 2 weeks. On Christmas morning, I set cinnamon rolls on the table at 8:30. Beans wore a red bandana and slept like a small rug under the heat vent. Snow stuck to the spruce. I arranged 4 plates and 4 mugs out of a sense for theater, me, Jacob, Brianna, and Patrice dropping by, as she would, at 9:15 sharp. At 9, Brianna cleared her throat. "We're not doing a big thing today," she said, picking at a corner of wrapping paper. "We have to talk about plans. It's time." "Time for what?" I asked, even though I knew her line. "For you to have real support," she said, all warmth and paste. "It's not safe for you here anymore. You'll love Birch River. We toured. It's gorgeous." Jacob stared at his mug. "Mom, we think—" "Before I go anywhere," I said, keeping my voice light, "let's watch a special home movie." I stood, lifted my laptop lid, and mirrored the display to the television. It showed my husband and Jacob sledding in 1998. Jacob laughed, a single true sound. And I felt my chest unlock. 30 seconds later, the frame slid to black. The title card read, Elaine Mercer, December Evidence Log. Brianna's smile didn't falter, her eyes did. Clip 1, the bank letter, date stamped December 6th, stating in 2 lines that no one had authority to change my accounts, without my in-person approval. Clip 2, the iPhone screen recording showing 3 transfers to Willow and West LLC, mousing over the timestamps and the memo lines. Clip 3, the audio of her phone call on December 20, with subtitles across the bottom, in before New Year equal to list the house. Clip 4, my clinic letter, December 12, no evidence of cognitive impairment impacting capacity, centered plain on the screen for 5 seconds. Clip 5, a still shot of the durable power of attorney, with the blank notary block and the loop on the E zoomed in until the pixels blurred. Then a split screen, my actual signature from a 2019 mortgage release, the E hooking left first, side by side with the forged one. The room changed temperature. Brianna stood. Turn it off, she said. This is an invasion of privacy. You cannot record me in your house without... In my house? I asked. Yes, I can. Except... Jacob reached for the laptop as if to close it, then stopped halfway, fingers in the air, gaze latched to the screen. Clip 6, the Angel camera video of December 15th, my bedroom door opening without a knock, her voice saying you missed 3 doses. The camera angle was low and saw only a slice, but it caught the pill organizer and her tone. Clip 7, the move-in agreement with the box checked allowing an agent to liquidate personal property. I had circled the box in red with the date in the corner. Clip 8, a short piece to camera I recorded myself on December 24. My name is Elaine Mercer, I said, looking straight at the lens. I do not consent to any move. I do not consent to any sale of my property. I have contacted legal counsel. I paused the footage. I let silence sit for 1 Mississippi, then 2. Here's the last part, I said. I clicked play. The screen showed a slate. This file was delivered to Rochester Police, December 24th. Case S. The case number filled the screen in plain white font. Then 3 lines, copies on 2 drives. Copy with elder law attorney, copy with neighbor. The image lingered 4 seconds. The room made its first sound. Beans snored. Brianna's face broke. She stepped toward me fast. Close it, she said, and reached for the laptop. Her fingers closed on the edge of the screen. In the clip, her voice said, "We get her in before New Year." She saw her own mouth moving on the television. She yanked the laptop. The cord popped out. My neighbor, Patrice, tapped the doorframe with her knuckle, the way she always does, and stepped inside holding a tin of Spritz cookies. She looked from the TV to Brianna's hand on my laptop. "Morning," Patrice said. Calm kettle voice. "Do I need to call someone? You called the police?" Brianna hissed. "On your family?" "My family is the truth," I said. And yes, that was when the doorbell rang. I did not time it. Rochester Police did. 2 officers stood on the porch, steam ghosting from their coats. "Morning, folks," the taller one said. "We're here on a welfare check and to follow up on a financial exploitation report." He looked at me. "Miss Mercer, are you safe?" "I am," I said, and my shoulders lowered. "But I need my property returned, and I'd like the people in my home to stay at least 20 feet from my desk and file cabinet." The shorter officer glanced at Jacob. "We'll keep the peace while you gather your things, ma'am. We may need statements." Brianna started talking in a flood, a spray of misunderstanding. "And we're just trying to care for her, and she's confused." The taller officer held up a hand. "You can speak when I ask questions," he said. "Right now, I need IDs. And ma'am, please remove your hand from that laptop." Jacob's voice came small, then steadier. "Give her the laptop, Bree." She did. Slowly, like it burned. I had not asked the police to arrest anyone. I had asked for a record, for a scene, for a third party to see. They saw. Within 15 minutes, Brianna had backed herself toward the hallway. She paced, then texted, then crossed her arms and stared at the snow. The officers took photos of the forged form, the move-in agreement, and my bank letter. They wrote the case number on a new card and asked if I wanted a short-term no trespass notice. I did. They served it right there, a 72-hour no trespass notice for Brianna Mercer at my address, signed at 10:21 a.m., December 25. She read it and laughed once, sharp and loud. Then she grabbed her coat from the banister hard enough to pull 2 scarves down with it. She looked at Jacob. "Are you coming?" she said. He didn't move. He looked at the TV, then at my spiral notebook on the table, then at the dog. "I'm staying for lunch," he said, voice low. "We'll talk later. Except..." Brianna did not walk away to let the matter rest. On December 26, she filed an emergency temporary guardianship petition anyway, claiming I was at risk and listing Jacob as supporting placement. She attached an unsigned medication sheet. The clerk stamped it. Megan texted me a photo of the docket entry at 3:17 p.m. and asked me to meet her at the courthouse the next morning with my folder. I set 3 alarms and slept in my robe with the folder under my bed. On December 27, we crossed the street from Civic Center Park in boots that squeaked on salt. Courtroom 4C smelled like old wood and dry winter coats. The commissioner read the file fast. Megan stood calm as a metronome. When it was our turn, I walked to the table and set my folder down. I looked at Jacob, who sat 2 rows back with his elbows on his knees. He would not meet my eyes. Megan began with capacity. She introduced the clinic letter and handed up a copy. The commissioner read the line about no evidence of cognitive impairment and initialed the corner. Megan moved to finances. She handed up the bank printout setting my transfer limits to 0 without in-person approval. She gave the commissioner the branch letter confirming no one had authority to change my accounts. Then, as neat as the multiplication tables, she slid the forged power of attorney forward and asked the commissioner to note the blank notary stamp and the mismatch in signatures. The commissioner raised her eyebrows at the blank notary block. "Ms. Mercer," she said to Brianna, "who notarized this?" Brianna glanced at the ceiling. Staples? They do stamps." "That is not how notarization works," the commissioner said. She wrote something long in the margin. Megan ended with the lever. "Your Honor," she said, "there is also a pending police report. The court need not determine criminality today, but it should know that evidence exists. My client wants what the law already gives her, to live in her home, to control her accounts, and to decide if and when she moves." The commissioner looked at me. "Ms. Mercer, do you want help at home?" she asked. "Different help than you've had?" "I want a physical therapist for my knee twice a week," I said. "I want my neighbor to have permission to take me to the clinic and pharmacy if needed. And I want a lock on my file cabinet." The commissioner smiled, just one side. Then she closed the file. "Petition denied," she said, voice clear. "No emergency guardianship is warranted. Any move-in agreements executed without Ms. Mercer's consent are void. Ms. Mercer retains all rights. Ms. Mercer, if you want a protective order, our clerk can help you file today. Ms. Mercer-in-law, I strongly suggest you retain counsel." The gavel made a smart sound. I breathed for the first time all the way down to my ankles. But then, the mid-roll surge came from the bank, not the court. On December 28 at 10:06 a.m., my branch manager called. He had received a call from an online payments risk team flagging a fresh attempt to move $3,000 to Willow & West LLC labeled Birch Deposit. It had failed due to my hold, but the attempt made the log. He asked if I wanted to escalate. I said yes. He transferred me to the fraud department. They opened a case and I read the numbers off my spiral page. By afternoon, they had reversed the earlier transfers, $2,750, pending investigation. The line item landed back in my account at 3:42 p.m. I refreshed the page 3 times to be sure. Numbers can be merciful too. That night, Jacob texted from a motel. "I'm sorry," he wrote. "I didn't understand how far she'd gone." I typed, deleted, then typed again. "I love you," I sent. "Come get the boxes you want tomorrow. The rest stays here." On December 30th, an adult protective services worker called and asked if I felt safe and if I wanted services. I said I wanted a grab bar in the shower and a home safety check. She scheduled both for January 4. Her voice was less kettle and more clipboard, but it was kind. She told me the police case would take time. I told her I had time and paper. January 3 arrived without a move to Birch River. No van, no admissions nurse, no intake kit. I made soup. Jacob carried the last of his boxes to his car. He held a single frame of him and his father in front of a blue Civic. "I should have said something sooner," he said. I nodded. "Say something now," I said. "To yourself, and then set your own limits." On January 9th, we returned to court for a hearing on an order for protection. Brianna did not bring a lawyer. She wore a hard jacket and the smile she uses for discount codes. She tried to explain the charges to herself even as she spoke. The judge read the police summary, recordings, bank attempts, forged form. He asked 2 questions. "Did you check this box allowing you to liquidate her personal property?" he said, tapping the page. "And did you attempt a $3,000 transfer after you were put on notice to stop?" She swallowed. "I was trying to help," she said. The judge signed a 1-year order for protection barring her from my address and from accessing my accounts or files. He also noted, for the record, that the court considered any future caregiving charges to be suspect absent receipts and prior written consent. He wrote his initials by that line. The clerk slid the paper into a plastic sleeve and handed me 2 copies. I slid one into my spiral notebook and gave the other to Megan. Consequences ripple in odd shapes. Birch River mailed a note on January 11 stating the deposit was refunded in full to the original cardholder because the signer lacked authority. The bank reversed the transfers and sent me a letter confirming closure of their investigation with a line I read twice: "Customer not liable, Adult Protective Services, closed their file as substantiated. Protective factors present, which is Human Services for we saw it and she's safe." On January 20, a business registration search showed Willow and West LLC under review. I did not do that. Systems grind on their own once enough ink hits them. February brought the quieter changes. A contractor installed a camera doorbell. Patrice and I typed up a simple in-case of emergency plan: which neighbor has the extra key, where the folder sits, who to call first. I put my file cabinet in the spare room and added a keyed lock. I changed the password on my laptop from the year my son was born to a phrase no one could guess. Jacob came on Sundays with a bag of clementines and news of a new job, a logistics role without commission pressure. He talked to a counselor through his work program. He said I more and we less. He walked Beans around the block, and they learned the same tempo. Sometimes he stopped and looked back at the house like he was counting windows. It would be simple and wrong to say everything healed clean. Some holidays are quieter now. Some days I see my husband's frown on my son's face when he reads an email that uses the word should. But there is a line drawn where a line belongs. If someone crosses it, there is paper and a case number. There is a judge's signature and a worker's clipboards, and a neighbor's steady hand on my elbow at the curb when ice disguises itself as water. The home movie sits on my desktop still. I do not play it. I do not need to. The people who needed to see it saw it. On Christmas morning, after the officers left and Beans went back to his vent, Jacob reached for a cinnamon roll and tore it soft in half. "What do we do now?" he asked. "We rinse the pan," I said. "We write down what happened. We lock the drawer. We eat while it's warm." The snow outside did not stop then. It just found its level. And when I think of that morning, of the way the TV blacked out between scenes, of the letters sliding across glass, of the doorbell chime landing like a period, I don't see myself boxed away. I see a fuse burn clean down to its base and go out on my terms with my hands steady on the table and my name signed the way it's supposed to be.